Think of the deep six lateral rotators of the hip like your six closest friends from college or high school. They are there and they serve a very specific purpose and they support you, but if you ignore them, they get butt hurt and there is a lot of drama. These six little muscles are buried very deep to the glutes, kind of at the center of who you are. So the work that I do here really concentrates on sinking through those superficial gluteus muscles and making sure that you're getting the detail of all six of those muscles, origin, insertion, and their ability to laterally rotate the hip. Since all of the deep six have an insertion right on or very near the greater trochanter, I like to start there, and I like to start with my client prone, so that as I'm pressing down on the posterior aspect of the greater trochanter, I'm getting a sense of how much movement that joint has with passive range of motion into internal rotation. So how much length is actually in those six muscles. Bringing my client's leg into a figure four is the perfect position to work on the deep six. It really opens them up and allows me the best access. So just because I get a lot of questions on how to efficiently get my client into this position, I'm going to show you this from 3 different angles. I'm just using one hand to hold the knee, the other one to lever the lower leg, and I'm holding that whole lower leg like a bar, bringing their knee up to their side and opening up that hip. So if anybody walked into your space uninvited and walked right up to your face and started talking to you, your initial reaction would be to back away and guard yourself a little bit. And muscles act in exactly the same way. And this is true especially for the deeper muscles. They are often not used to getting worked on, so enter their space gracefully. When working with the deep six muscles, the piriformis is often the leader of the pack, and you want to treat it as such. So kind of right inferior to the glute medius, you're going to start sinking in a little bit and you'll find the piriformis. And working down from there, making sure you get all the detail, like I said before, of each of those six muscles, working from the piriformis all the way to the space between the ischial tuberosity and the greater trochanter. All those muscles lie right in that space. My first contact with these muscles is usually just some nice deep compression. I don't want to do anything more dramatic because they don't need any more drama. If you're working with a client who is used to this kind of work and requires a little more than just compression, friction is the next logical step. Envisioning that the glutes are kind of peeled away, I'm sinking down deep into the origin of these muscles and I'm slowly frictioning through, finding some kind of a rhythm that allows my client to let go. Working rhythmically can give the client a sense that they know what to expect and prevents any guarding from an unexpected technique. Doing the same work down at the insertion site, right at the greater trochanter, I like to make sure that I'm grabbing the whole hip here. It gives the client a sense of support and allows me to manipulate the hip in a way that I can dig a little bit deeper and that friction can really take effect. Let's pretend like this clip is totally in focus and my eyes are not nearly as bad as I need to admit. Okay, getting into some of the deeper work, I'm using my elbow here, obviously. A sharper elbow or a softer forearm might be what it takes, that's up to you. But what I'm doing here is sinking into any trigger points that might exist in these muscles. So as I sink in with my elbow, I'm using my other hand on their knee to help the client feel supported, and as you'll see in a minute, manipulate what the hip can do. So right here I've found something that feels like it's not really letting go. So I'm going to take my hand that's on the knee and pull the knee up just a little bit. That softens those lateral rotators and helps me to sink in a little bit deeper and helps the client to let go a little bit more. On the flip side, if I feel like one of these muscles needs a pin and stretch, I can use my hand to push the knee down just a little bit, using my elbow to pin down that muscle and helping to give that muscle a nice deep stretch. As an added bonus here, I like to take this opportunity to dig a little bit right into the TFL while I can support the whole hip. It seems to set all this work into place and remind the hip that it's all one continuous unit and that all these muscles need to be working together. This quick stretch can feel really good after all that deep work, so you just want to let their lower leg drop off the table, use one hand to support their knee, and use the other hand to push their foot towards their elbow. A PNF in this area can be a little bit tricky because it's hard to get a client to pull their leg in while their knee is bent. So give them some visual clues and use your hand that's on their glutes to make sure that those muscles are engaging. Once they've engaged, hold it with resistance and then give those muscles a nice deep stretch. This last technique that I'm going to demo has my client back in the supine position, and I want to make sure that they're really letting go of their hip. So drawing circles with their knee first, and then crossing their leg over to the opposite side of their body, and making sure that all those muscles are really released and letting go. Once I know that I have their trust and I can use their knee to move their hip and manipulate their hip around, I'm going to use my hand here to sink down into those deep six and pull their knee closer to me as I sink in. This repetitive passive range of motion with some depth can really have a grand effect. Placing your own hand on the table here can offer you some support and allow that work to sink in just as effectively. This can even be a great moment to give your clients some ideas about how to deal with this at home. So if they've got a nice massage ball or some tools that they can lie on the ground and then move their own leg around and sink into that deep hip, this can be some stuff that they do with their own self-care. And lastly, just to set it all into place, I like to use a broader contact here and just pressure down away from the low back. So I'm pushing the hip down, moving the knee around, and allowing the hip to recognize its new state of relaxation. Thank you so much for watching and for continuing to be the most amazing massage therapists that you are. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks.